Hi everyone, Comic Reviewer here, and this time reviewing on Back to the Future, Citizen Brown issue number 1. Now, as you know, the storyline is based on the Telltale game that was released in 2011. Eventually, IDW made their own adaptation of it, and let's get on the story. The story mainly starts off how Marty writes in his diary, and Marty's like, wait, did you hear that? It sounds almost like... no way. And so Marty gets a message from Doc Brown, and Jennifer quickly protests, saying, oh no, I'm sorry, Marty. There's no way I'm ever going back in that car. Now, if you have watched the second film, Jennifer had a bad experience back in the second film and doesn't want to live through it again. And so Marty sees that Doc's last adventure was in 1931. And even does some investigating where he lies about it being a report. And one of the guys says, I'm sorry, much of our archives were lost in the fire back in the 60s. And they talk about Edna Strickland, who is meant to be the older sister of Principal Strickland. And this one, yeah, like brother, like sister, she's like, hey you kids, I see what you're doing, defacing public sidewalks. And so Marty asks about, it for being a report, and quickly sweet talks her into getting what he needs. And Marty sees to his shock that Doc's been assassinated, and he says, say, would you mind if I borrowed this? It'd be helpful. If you think I'm letting a piece of my prize collection walk out of here, you're out of your mind. And so decides to make tea, and Marty quickly tricks her and gets away with it. And Jennifer mainly gives Marty her dad's old clothes, and Marty heads back to 1931, where he walks up to Hill Valley, where it's much different from the 50s, and even sees a much younger Edna saying, excuse me, young man, you're the only man on the street. I'm looking for a man on the street. And doing mainly about the gangs and everything else. And so mainly Marty finds Doc, and Doc's like, Marty, what are you doing here? Are you kidding? Didn't Doc, you sent me the letter? And so he points out that he's gonna get him out and that, and even points out about what happened to him, and Doc's like, great Scott! And even told him that, that maybe he can get the DeLorean to go back and that, but Doc points out that it's too risky, that, time paradox and that, but he does point out to meet his younger self about his power drill in hopes of getting him out, and says, well, before I took up science, and points out that he was mainly working for his judge father, and says, don't touch those are very sensitive legal documents. And so Marty has to pretend that he's someone else, and mainly are talking about taking down Biff's dad and that. And so mainly gets to work, as well as basically Strickland's sister meeting Doc Brown. And mainly we're introduced to where Tannen's been working at the soup kitchen, selling like spirits and everything else. and says that, you know, he needs to do something important to try and stop Tannen as well. And Marty shows up saying, "Hey, where's the hack? Is Arthur McFly?" "What? Hey, kid, you're not supposed to be back here, so why don't you get out of here?" "Wait, huh? I got soup to unload." And says that he owes him money, and that he works for a crime boss called Robert De Niro. And meanwhile, Biff's dad is like, "You know why I called you in here?" "Geez, kid, no." "That's Mr. Tannen to you, McFly." And pretty much threatens and even berates Arthur McFly. And Kid Tannen says, "And if so one of those subnoodles land in the head of my number, I'll be in a whole lot of trouble. I could be sailing up the river. You wouldn't want that, would you?" And so, mainly one of Kid Tannen's cronies show up saying that there's some guy who owes him money, and sends him out to deal with it, but has one of his hired goons to try and find out what's going on. So, turns out that they need Arthur to try and take down Kid Tannen, and pretty much Monty says, you know, "Do this for your grandkids, they'll be proud of you." And he's like, "Grandkids? I'm not married. I don't even have a girl. Besides, I'm just not sure." And so they, you know, persuade him to do this anyway. And Kid Tannen's henchman shows up and lets him know, saying, "Girls, we have hears about you'll be doing it permanently." And so younger Doc Brown works on his invention and pretty much gives it to Marty, and even gives him the bike and that, and heads off, and mainly uses the invention to basically blast down the like prison wall. And Doc's like, Marty, can you hear me? Are you alright?" "I'm fine, Doc, just a little winded." And so they mainly make a break for it, and one of the officers says, "Stop!" And so they make it to the DeLorean, only for Marty to find out that he's fading from existence. And yeah, this is the story. So when I think of the first issue of Citizen Brown, it feels a bit like a potential fourth Back to the Future film, and I think it does feel like it. I feel it's interesting because it's like a what would have been had Back to the Future became a fourth film, and what would have happened had it been made. So I think it deserves a thumbs up. Still good, and still alright. So, Comic Reviewer here, signing out.